a sense from a macro perspective, what share of insurance has already gone the digital route, and how do you see that evolving in the next few years, both for the India perspective and any sites you have maybe on UAE and the rest of the world?
Fair enough. So India, the penetration levels of insurance in general is very low. What we're trying to do is, we're very focused on the protection side of business. There are three aspects to it, which is death, disability, and disease. These are the three pillars of insurance which we are focused on. Obviously, we'll continue to do motor insurance. Having said that, term insurance, for example, before we ventured into the space, did not exist. Currently, about 30% of all the term insurance just sold in India as a coverage has gone through Policybazaar platform. So just to give you numbers on that, roughly $500 billion of coverage is there in India. Roughly about $150 to $200 billion of that coverage has gone through Policybazaar in the last couple of years. So penetration levels, if you see on the term side, primarily whatever term insurance is getting sold in India is digital. So I would say about 70-80% is digital. Motor insurance would be under 20%. Health, about 7% has moved to digital. And I'm talking about the relevant market spaces. Remove the government business and everything. I believe that is where it is.
Those are very impressive numbers.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. So, Neeraj also runs on the finance side, Policybazaar. But what we'll do is, since we've got a lot of diversity here in the panel, we'll talk to Pavithra first. So, sure. Pavithra, being a tax professional, is your mic not working?
It's working.
Okay.
It's all good.
Okay. So being a tax professional, how is, in your sense, the landscape for compliance and tax changing with digital?
Right, Nikhil. I've been listening very interestedly this morning, right? And I was just thinking that in the midst of all this, there's something which is happening in the world, right? Which probably being the front end, we're seeing more than the operational colleagues who are there in this room. It's going to probably be making a big impact on how companies are going to, look at compliance, right? So if we take a step back and think about how tax has been traditionally done, it's a finance person's problem. It's a tax consultant's problem. It happens so after the fact that it's kind of disconnected from actual transactional operations, right? Other than transactional taxes, yes, you would have VAT, you'd have, some withholding or something like that. But what's happening is, I think Mr. Talal mentioned about Ireland and how, profit shifting is happening between companies and countries. The regulators have caught on to that quite a bit, right, internationally. And there is a sea change which is happening across the world, led by OECD, with a need for transparency on how multinationals structure their operations, right? And that has big ramifications in my mind in terms of how companies need to gear up to be digitally savvy, because the data which is being expected to be provided is too intense, right? And I personally believe that, while there's so much of interest, excitement in solving for banks and their technology requirements and solutions, I think the non-bank sector is a little forgotten when it comes to finance in terms of innovation, perhaps because it's not a core business. We are a support function, right? But there is a lot of opportunities out there, and I think that's going to become more than an opportunity, an urgent burning need very soon, because regulations are going to force you to do that. An example to case, just over the last year, a number of countries have gone with e-invoicing as a mandatory requirement. And e-invoicing means that, the regulator wants to have visibility at, through their portal as to what you're transacting between two parties, right? And imagine that being done at a scale like in India. India is actually piloting that for the first time with bigger companies. Yes, with 100 billion plus big corps. So it's a teaser. It's going to come, right?
Is this part of the GST program, or is it independent?
It is. So it is part of the GST program. So the step one was to get GST in place. You take out all of the multitude of layers of taxes you have and make it one simple comprehensive tax. And then the step two is to bring in transactional visibility to the regulator on a real-time basis so that you cannot do any fancy planning, you cannot have these disconnections between what you submit to customs and what you submit to, from the vendor side versus the customer side, etc. So many things changing, and I think, from a disruption perspective, there's a big opportunity out there for smart tech companies to think about how can they help companies in this space.
It's very interesting. Thank you for that. So, as I said, we've got quite a diverse panel here. We've got Mr. Shambhu here, who's here from Nepal. And Shambhu, could you share with us how digitization is affecting finance in Nepal and other emerging economies?
Okay, thank you. And let me introduce myself first, just 2 minutes. I am the founder of World Trade Group Nepal, and we are coming with 3 global products. As you know, you have already habitual with the hotel booking systems like booking.com for booking, like a trip advisor to get advice on the trip, and like Agoda, and lots of things. We are coming with a room for rest. So you will get the right target. You want to book hotel to get rest. So we are coming with the room for rest is a global product to have a hotel booking. So next we are coming with the global black hole IT solution we have started, but this is a type of Amazon, So Amazon don't have its own product, but you can get any product in Amazon. Like that, we also have product, but so we will provide any kind of solution from anywhere in the world to you. So black hole IT is coming with the one solution. And next one is, you might have listened about Quora, the Quora.com. So we are coming with the sawaljawab.com. So in South Asian region, so most of who from Hindi, Nepali, all Sanskrit origin language can understand sawaljawab.com. So we are coming with the question answer platform as well. So now I come to your question. Next thing is, if we talk about financial system, now lots of abruption is going to happen. So the country like Nepal, India, or South Asia, or if we talk about Africa as well, we can say lots of population still today are illiterate. Those who are illiterate, how can they be digitalized? How can they feel digitalization? There's a big question. And another is, we used to, you might have listened that if you pay somebody a check, there was a sentence, is a subject to realization. Nowadays, if you pay money online, you will realize first, subject to transaction. It's quite opposite. 5 years before or 10 years before, you will have realization, transaction first, and after that realization. Now you realize first, subject to transaction. It means abruption is happening here. But some of the people who don't understand, who cannot read, write, they need cash. So there's a big question. What is the existence of money? For the millennial, like we just saw the presentation, they don't want to touch money. They don't want to feel money. They just want the transaction. Okay? But those population who don't have education, who are not literate, they need cash. And they want to know by color. There's a big gap. So I think this panel will give some forecast of how the future of digital finance will be going. So I'll be speaking more. I think my friends should be given some chance to speak.
Sure, thank you. Thank you so much for those insights. I've got some more questions, but if the audience has got any burning questions, I don't want to miss those out. Does anybody want questions, or should I just go on with my list? Okay, I'll just go on with mine. So back to you, Neeraj. You spoke about the insurance element of your business and how that's grown and how it's been transformed, right? You have an equally large business in the online lending space. Can you tell us how digital has impacted that, how that has grown, what the journey has been like, and where it's headed?
So we started the insurance vertical in 2008 in India. And about 2014, what we saw is obviously the consumers have different financial needs. One part was insurance and the other part was the banking side. And that is where sister company Policybazaar was launched, which deals with all financial products other than insurance. Now, and back those times, what used to happen is if you need a loan or if you need to open a bank account or you need a credit card, you would typically meet an agent, fill in a form, and that form will go to certain departments, check and everything, right? So the whole process was very long. And if you look at a credit card sort of a product, okay, it might be a both pull and a push product. But if you see a personal loan, a lot of times consumer looking for a personal loan is at the time he needs it or she needs it, right? And if you tell him or her that it's going to take 30 days, that's not going to be very suitable. So what we've done is we've built the entire digital ecosystem, and what we've done is there are 4 credit bureaus in India. We worked with them, and we've launched a credit awareness program as well, and also integrated with majority of the financial institutions. So now what happens is whatever digital decisioning can happen, it's sort of a pre-approved thing. It happens within fraction of seconds. So if you want to apply for a personal loan, we are integrated with the banks, with the bureau, and basis certain rules and the past experience of similar profiles of a consumer, we would be able to tell you, yes, this is going to get approved or not. Now, I want to also touch base on the credit piece, credit awareness piece. Now, what is happening is in this market also there's a credit bureau, right? But a lot of people who are not associated with the financial industry would not know what a credit score is or what does it impact when you want to take a credit product or what factors impact it, right? So we launched a credit awareness program in 2017 in India. Now what that essentially does is it helps you track your credit score. If you have a bad credit score, how do we help you improve that? And third, if you're not part of the credit cycle, how can you be part of the credit cycle? And today we generate close to about 10-12 million reports a month, which is obviously free of cost for the consumer. And in the last 1 year, we've helped close to about 1 million consumers improve their credit score by about 100 points. Just to give you certain stats, the Indian Credit Bureau reports that they have about 200 million credit consumers in terms of who have a credit history, and only about 40 million are prime consumers, as you call it, which a typical NBFC or a bank would be willing to provide. So what happens to the rest? And that is where this all is happening for us. Yeah.
That includes, so there's separate bureaus for microfinance and personal loans, right?
Yes.
So yours includes microfinance reports.
So what
as well.
happens is we use a service which is by the credit bureaus, which are there in 4. But what we are also trying to use is more analytics on the consumer behavior. I was just reading an article, one of the companies which is doing micro or loans. For example, you want to buy a mobile phone and you're low in the, very subprime consumer. So what they would see is a person who just walks in the afternoon and wants to buy a mobile phone, his loan is probably going to get rejected if he's a subprime consumer. Because the chances are who walks in the middle of a day for a mobile shopping, right? This person might be out of a job. So if you're a subprime, so these are the different analytical tools which reside over the credit bureau probably, which helps. And that is what we're trying to build.
Very interesting insight. So we've talked a little bit about lending, we've talked about insurance, we've talked about tax. The topic for this panel is fairly broad, so we're going to continue going from vertical to vertical. Pavithra, I think you may be best suited to next talk about accounting and how digitization is impacting it.
Sure. So I think it's fair to say that accounting and accounting standards have also evolved very drastically in the last couple of years. All the changes in the international financial reporting standards, as well as in US GAAP and other major legislation, is driving the gap between accounting, operations, finance to be narrowed, right? Accounting is no longer a silo function which you can do after the fact and issue out a financial statement, because all the big IFRS changes which came in recently is pointing towards that. It's pointing towards accounting having more skin in the game in terms of what's management's view on things and how do you convert that view into numbers which the shareholders can intelligently read and understand what's going on really in the operations of a company, right? An example to case, if you look at the recent standard which has come in on leasing, which is a big impact for banks, that expects you to take analytical decisions and assessments on whether an operating lease needs to, in a sense, is a finance lease, and then convert the lease accounting from what you would have traditionally done to what it should be to reflect the essence of a transaction. So all of this, in my mind, means that the previous panelist or speaker talked about silos. That has to really change, right? I think we need some kind of a cross-functional connect, and also expertise from finance leaders is changing. So, what's expected as finance professionals to be what you were traditionally capable of, that you have to keep evolving, reskilling to be more savvy on the operational side, because no one's going to look out for your needs. You have to be able to add value to the C-suite, to be in the right place to catch these risks. So that's how I see, digitization being an impact on that, because all of whatever transactionally is happening is today designed for operational convenience, operational performance. But in the future, the underpinning connection through the finance and accounting link is going to become stronger, which means that digitization in some way has to play a role to bring that together, because the volumes of data is too huge and the verticals are too many for any company to actually manage it without some technology solutions.
Yeah, it does look like it's all coming together quite nicely with Neeraj's companies bringing in all of the insurance and loans digitally, and then we've got things like e-receipts and Aadhaar and all of this going into accounting and tax altogether. Sounds like it's going to be a central repository of information for the world to access. Shambhu, did you want to add something to that?
Actually, I have a different perception on the accounting and
Go
taxes.
ahead.
Okay,
That's how we'll have the power if you have a different perception.
Yeah, what I believe is government always wants to increase the tax. If suddenly they increase, suppose 20% and they made 25%, there will be hue and cry. And so what they do, they look for the subtopics. This topic, that topic, that, so that people feel like there is a 20%, but they could make it 30%. So there is a taxation system, I think, the accounting system is all like that. Otherwise, why don't they say that government, flat, 20% you pay the tax, rest of thing you manage? Why can't they say? So next thing is, in India, I know, and Amazon has created one button, they are in Switch. So what they do, they are the GST button. So people, how much they say, maybe 500 crore or 200 crore, any amount. They push one button called GST, and that tax is finalized. Okay, there is no accounting system built. AI is there, ML is there. So what I believe is the government wants to look for the topic to make more tax, make more earning. So there are the lots of systems. So I come back to my topic. So, as I believe our audience is highly is intelligentsia. Everybody know about finance. Everybody know about the existing system, an old ecosystem as well. So, I am the initiator of a startup ecosystem in Nepal as well. So, and we are making it a global one. So, yes, everywhere is a startup movement. So, and Startup Hub Global is the company we are going to create. And everywhere in every country, we want to build one startup ecosystem, which will include everything, from manufacturing to the idea mining. So everything will be included. So, and we are initiating, and we have already started in some 5-6 countries, and we are making it global within 1 year. So if we come to the finance, why do we need finance, and why do we need money? If you see the history, so in the earlier time, there was one what we call, we cannot say money, but the value was counted in a big object, like big stone and big metal like that. After that, stone is removed because it's heavy. So it came to the cattle. So like if you have buffalo, if you have cow, it changes the money. After that, they started a coin. So metal. After that, a coin. After that, money. After that, you don't know the money. In bank, there is some transaction. So now I would like to propose one very funny thing, but it will happen in very near future, I believe. So why don't we create international rating system rather than having money in your pocket, rather than having money in your bank? Suppose you have a rating of 1,000 coins, 1,000 point. It means 1,000 point means X value. You can go everywhere, you can buy everywhere, and you can enjoy. After that, that will settle, and you came to the 800 point. Why not? Look here, I don't bias on any country. Suppose a bankrupt person or any beggar from USA goes anywhere, he will get visa. Okay? A billionaire comes from Nepal or India, you have to ask for, wait for lots of time to get visa. There is something problem, right? Any country, they want to welcome the money holder, or the billionaire, or millionaire, or entrepreneur. But the border, political border, is blocking or protecting them to go to the opportunity. And the country, even developed country, also want to welcome the money holder, or the entrepreneur, businessman. That also being protected. So I suggest, I hope it will be created very soon. Like Facebook is about to create a Libra. So what I believe is from cryptocurrency, it became some out of track now. So if you have a global rating system, suppose I am a billionaire, suppose I have this rating. Another people, another this rating. Why do you need visa for the country? Like iSIM is recently being introduced. You might be familiar with that. iSIM. You don't have to have SIM, country-based SIM. Okay? You have to, if you fly from here to India or America, you have to buy another SIM. Why? There is a single SIM called iSIM. Like that, if there is a single rating system, it's a global currency, wherever you go, you don't have to sign the check, you don't have to trust to payment. You just say, I can book my hotel. Your audio is captured there. And there should be a rating agency, how much you can speak. That changes into your business. Yeah. Suppose your rating is 500, you cannot speak more than 500. It can be settled after a month. So financial clouding system is required, I believe, because the money is almost about to extinct in advanced society. People don't want to see, don't want to touch, don't want to cash money. They don't want the fingertip transaction. Next thing, if you have a international rating system, you have no problem. You can just walk by a morning walk dress. You don't have to carry purse. You don't have to carry any pockets or any money or any passport, I believe.
No loans, insurance, taxes, or accounting.
Okay, if you come to existing system, from finance background, people say, these are finance, because you are within the box. What I believe is, if you come out of the box, these finance or money is just the means. These are not the ends, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely right. Guys, with that, I think we'll open it up to questions from the audience. We've got an esteemed panel here, so if anybody's got questions on impact of digitization on lending, insurance, tax, accounting, feel free to shoot up. Anybody? No? Okay, we can go on diving and keep talking about other things. So we've talked about lending at a high level and how it's gone digital, right? Can you talk about some of the elements that have led to that, right? The credit processing, online acquisition of consumers, digital dispersal of loans. Any of those processes that you've adopted?
Fair enough. So we are essentially an aggregator. We are not a manufacturer, right?
Sure.
So what we've done is we obviously work very closely with the manufacturers on both the insurance as well as the banking side. Obviously, it was a tough battle to get these institutions to agree on certain processes. It was a very tough battle. But obviously, once we started delivering volumes and everything, things started moving. Now, if you look at, if I talk about specifically on the banking side, credit cards, lending, majority of our transaction now get processed within about 2 days. If you talk about a typical banking transaction, which is a new to bank sort of a consumer, in 2 days, nothing is going to happen. Probably you're not even going to get your account opened.
Are you satisfied with that metric?
And obviously not. Obviously not. We would love that to happen. So, for example, on the loan side, we would love if I want a loan at 12 in the night, I get it like within few seconds into my account. But obviously, I also appreciate at the banking side the risks these guys carry, and they have to vet that out, right? So obviously eKYC and all those tools are helping in that. I believe we're still time away from getting that realistic about getting financial products in an instant, at least on the credit side.
Yeah, in India. So in the West, it's already reality.
Yes.
What do you think holds us back in India?
There are two things. One is obviously one system or one rating or one number which I can just put in and I can get the details of the consumer, right? We had Aadhaar, it got into a whole lot of other problems, and right now you can't use that as a financial institution to carry out the transaction. So it was headed in that direction, but somehow right now you can't, right? Sure. So if you talk about the Western world or wherever, there's at least one unique identifier which can work across. For example, in the Middle East, or especially if I talk about UAE, with the Emirates ID, you can literally pull out whatever information you want, right? So I believe this market would move to that very, very fast in terms of adopting everything digital, because you already have the infrastructure in place. Whereas a country like India, the core infrastructure is getting built up, and there are challenges obviously there.
Got it. Pavithra, do you have insights on that? On what you think holds us back from a regulatory perspective from getting really instantaneous with our financial transactions?
Yeah, I think, it's also political, right? At the end of the day, different countries are in different trajectories because they have their own nationalistic agendas,
Sure.
which, one cannot take that out of the equation. It's not a level playing field. It's not the same all over the world. We talked about how Africa doesn't have electricity. So, there are known reasons, depending on where each country is in its trajectory of development, growth, population, which definitely would play a role in regulators pressing for things or otherwise, right? So, we would always have, while the aspiration would be to have one uniform world, and I wish it happens. I would like to see that, like everybody else. The truth of the matter is we are actually going the reverse, because nationalism is becoming more strong in every part. Even the more mature players are now taking a retro step and being more nationalistic about their own boundaries and what they want to protect for their own citizens and people. So Shambhu raised a very nice, important point as to why do we need passports, why do we need visas to get into countries? Right. So, yeah, maybe if one looks at it more holistically, that's a very fundamental question, right? Boundaries are driven by, it's all drawn by human beings. So, these same continents and countries were different a couple of million years back. But the truth of the matter is we have to still play within the rules of what we are today. And I think while we would like to be uniform, you would always have regulations coming in which will be based on nationalistic agendas.
Got it. So Shambhu, I know you like to look at the world as one whole and humanity as one whole, but if you could go back and give us a sense of what finance in the digital world is like in Nepal, I think that would be quite interesting.
Okay, so I'd like to ask the audience one question. How many of you know about cabbage? Cabbage? 2 people, 3 people. Okay. So cabbage has applied one system.
He's not talking about the vegetable, right?
Really?
Just kidding.
Okay, so it's an artificial intelligence system. When you apply loan, within 10 minutes, it gives a decision that whether you get or not the loan. You don't have to be there in front of the reception or whatever we call to the officer. You apply online, you will get the decision within 10 minutes. So they have used and utilized the artificial intelligence system. Okay? So if we talk about AI, ML, DL, now it comes, I come within the box.
Yeah.
Now these systems are in practice. Okay? So if you see the number of staffs nowadays in bank are facilitate you? No. They are there to disturb you to get the loan. Exactly. More people, it will take more time. Few people, it will be faster. Provided if you adapt the real technology available in the world. So we are also providing these services, MLDL. So now the future of digital banking or digital finance, if you see, it will be within your voice, it will be within your retina, nowhere. So some African country like Kenya, I believe, they have already started drone to carry bloods. Emergency blood is being carried by drone. There is no vehicle. Emergency people, how can they wait for the ambulances? Drone carries the blood. So everything is all about IoT, Internet of Things, and artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning. So our finance system is also going to do that. And the problem is how to address, suppose 50,000 people. HSBC and some top banks of the world have already cutting their staffs. Why? Actually, these staffs are the burden, and actually these staffs are creating hurdle for you, not facilitating. Now the world is changed. So digital finance future is having the automation system, no people involved. Only people is involved when there is problem or disruption or disturbances. So I believe, so from developed country it is started, in developing countries difficult, as I told, there is a problem of literacy. Even now the day, some of the country have 50% of illiteracy. What does it mean? 50% of the population cannot read, cannot write. So there is a problem of finance. Otherwise, in advanced society, the future of digital finance is in automation and fully controlled by the IT, IoT, and people are just taking their finance as the supporting machine. Not like a bank is entity here now. Banks should not be entity. Finance company should not be entity. There should be a virtual thing which facilitates our business. This is the future of finance, I believe.
Pavithra, you want to add to that, the future of banks?
Yeah, well, I think in my mind, the future of finance, first of all, needs to be, blockchain and distributed ledger. Okay, first, there need not be, a structured way of defining how each company is going to record a transaction, which is unique to the company. It may be unique to an industry, but it need not be necessarily unique to the company. So I see the future of finance to be different from what it is today, empowered by blockchain as an underpin, right? Of course, we all know that the technology is yet to be tested.
Yeah.
There is a lot of skepticism about how much of safety is around that, but there are many.
The principle is something you agree in.
Sorry?
The principle is something you agree in.
Oh, I think it's a matter of time, right? There are many brilliant brains which is working on that risk. So
Absolutely.
over time, we will definitely get to a stage or a mechanism where we are able to crack that puzzle. At which point in time, I think the future of finance is going to be very different. We don't need finance professionals to do what we are doing today, right? But it's going to also mean that we have to look for reskilling that workforce, because otherwise you're going to have a problem in your hands. In terms of what is the future of work, right? How do you distribute wealth in the ecosystem to people who've grown up and universities which are training them for a certain skill set when on the other side you're looking to disrupt things drastically with the future using technology?
I'd like to add some two incidents in this order. In 2007, So, sorry, I am also the student of international relations. I am pursuing my PhD in international relations, so I do study some international politics as well, involved with finance. Okay, so in 2007, China had proposed one new international currency. Nowadays, we are using as an international currency is a US currency. It's not an international currency, but we suppose it's an international currency. US dollar is not international currency, right? But we believe this is an international currency. So China has proposed in 2007 in Shanghai Cooperation Organization that there should be international currency. So I would like to remind you another incident last year. President Trump had announced, not officially in Twitter or Facebook, something threatening thing to Turkey. In Turkey, within 1 week, the forex, foreign exchange was with dollar, $1 is equal to 4, 7 days before. Within 7 days, it had become $1 is equal to 8 Turkish currency. Okay, this shows the future of finance. Global financial control and the value of money, and let's talk about dematerialization of that currency or the note. There is something waiting for us to have the international rating system, international currency, international value rating. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Neeraj, you want to add to that? International currency, international digitization of finance, unification?
There will be single bank, single currency. People may be from anywhere in the world.
I believe it's a wish everybody can hope for, but I doubt it will happen because obviously, as Pavithra mentioned, every country, their needs, their political systems are very different. The economic systems are very different. You can't adopt one solution for every market, right? What works for us in India is not necessarily going to work in the Middle East. We can obviously take cues and learnings from what we've done in India, but we can't expect one solution fits everyone, right? So that's just it.
Do you believe in it may not be unified worldwide, but in a country-specific blockchain-based currency? May not be Bitcoin, maybe some other coin?
Like in EU?
Tough, because see, for one region also there are too many parties involved, right? Getting everybody on board is not going to be an easy thing. And as you mentioned, it's going in the reverse direction right now. So,
Pavithra, you look like you want to add something to that.
I'm just, I'm just being honest. I think when you have a group of people, okay, while we're all similar, we're also different, right? So, we've seen that even in life, that when you have a group of 20 people, you have at least, at minimum, 3 opinions and 3 groups of views, right? So yes, it's aspirational, it's great if it happens, but I think what we can do is to look at what really is best in the West or anywhere else, and layer in culture, layer in what is really, unique in terms of ecosystem, in terms of requirements in the country. And I personally believe UAE does a very nice job of that. If you think about it, as a country, it's Islamic, Sharia compliant, but we're also very modern. We've kind of walked that fine line so well. Sure. So the model is there. It's there for people to look at adopting in everything, in finance, in tech. You don't need to necessarily ape what happens in one country and apply it as such, but you'll obviously have to look at how it works and normalize it for your country.
Makes sense. Thank you very much for that. I think we're almost out of time. Right? Any last questions? I think we've got room for 1 or 2 if anybody's got any. There's one there.
Thank you for your valuable discussions and on the finance of the future. You talk about government, you talk about politics, but there are some social giants, they are coming in the field of finance. My question is, what do you think about Libra? Libra is, what is that Libra? Libra is a new cryptocurrency that will be launched by the Facebook. What do you think, what will the role of the Libra in the finance of the future? I'm believing that it have a very strong role because almost half of the people of the world are not on Facebook. So if they are on Facebook, they are their own customer, and they have so many big tie-up with the Uber, with the with Vodafone, so many big companies with a tie with the Facebook on Libra coin. So what do you think, how the Libra will impact the future of finance?
So I think on this panel, I think Shambhu, you may be the most qualified person to talk about Libra.
The question is, there are lots of things. My grandfather used to say about the Marx theory. Yes, those who have money can control everything, those who don't have money cannot control everything. But nobody cares, my grandfather had told that. Marx has told that, everybody knows. The thing is, it depends upon the American government how they decide. As I already told, how US dollar became the international currency. Why you cannot carry UAE dirham and buy the product in USA, in Europe? Why? If you find out the answer of this question, you will find out your question's answer as well. Okay? If American government wants, let's take Libra as an international currency and is a virtual currency or cryptocurrency, whatever they say, they can impose. The first thing is, if you talk about IFC, IMF or World Bank, they have one system, hidden another system. So, if American government and IFC and World Bank want, they can implement it. But of course, people are more habitual with Facebook, and Facebook has a wide network. Despite having that, one company from US, you all know, is launching a global satellite to provide globally free Wi-Fi. After that, that company also will intervene to have new currency, new system. All telco company is going to die, like Etisalat, Do, or whatever we have in the world, within 3 to 4 years, not longer time. So they are launching some 600 satellites. So after that, who will use mobile SIM? As I have already told, there will be iSIM already introduced. iSIM will be there. One SIM you carry, you can use everywhere in the world, and there will be no telecom companies. Within 5 years, you will not find any telecom companies, no ISPs as well. So disruption is happening very soon. I see there is a chance of Libra. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? There's one back there.
Good afternoon. Actually, mine is not a question, but coming from an industry, I'm from the finance and accounting. Digitalization of finance is, for me, the future of the professions. We have been employing heavily artificial intelligence in our processes. And I think asking questions about the impact of digitalization in finance and accounting, if we are still asking ourselves now, it's a bit too late, because it is the future of the profession. And the sooner we embrace technology, you are the real winners. That's all.
Let me add something. So, if you are talking about digitalization, you have to remember two terminologies. One is digitization, another is digitalization. Okay? First, if you have digitized, then you will have the benefit of digitalization. These two things, digitization should come first. Then you will have the benefit of digitalization, even in finance, even in taxation, and every systems. Okay.
Does that answer your question? Oh, it wasn't really a question. If I were to add 2 cents to it, I'd say, yes, we've kind of gotten to a future, but there'll always be a new thing. And I think the idea for this panel and in general conferences is to get to that new thing. We've come a long way, definitely, in the last 5 years, and it feels like the future. But the future will certainly be different.